Greetings, YouTube. Innuendo Studios recently did a couple of videos dealing with the structural differences between a liberal and a conservative worldview, and it touched heavily on capitalism and essentially the hierarchical structure of capitalism with the masses at the bottom and the overly moneyed elites at the top. And one of the things that struck me about the film, because both of them videos were excellent. They're very good. He's far better at this than I am, probably ever will be. Is that many conservatives, or actually most conservatives, view that hierarchical structure of capitalism as natural. And I've lost count of how many times I've encountered people who very much see that hierarchy as a natural consequence of reality. That we enter a world where dog eat dog, only one person at the top of the hill is a real thing. And yet, it isn't. Because it doesn't take into account altruism, which exists in the real world, which has shown to exist in biology. Animals that are not sapient act in altruistic manners because of genetics. And humans have the capacity to be altruistic for sapient reasons. And if you do research on kids, you will see that children at an age just as they're acquiring language understand sharing, understand fairness. We are not born into a world of dog-eat-dog capitalism. Capitalism has always been and always will be completely artificial. It is something created by us and something that does not benefit most of us. Remember, for capitalism to exist, you need three things: the concentration of wealth, the exploitation of resources and humanity. In fact, we have changed the language so that we even consider humans to be resources. And lastly, poverty. Capitalism cannot exist without poverty. Because poverty is the big stick that is supposed to motivate people. Well, if you don't work hard enough, you end up in the poorhouse. That's not natural. Remember, evolutionary theory is not applicable to social structures. There is no such thing as social Darwinism. That was a misinterpretation of Darwin's work. It has nothing to do with evolutionary theory. We do not have social Darwinism. What we have is a lot of people that have been convinced greed is good. How do I get me some of that greed? If we had a just society, no one would suffer. And as long as we have a society where no one suffers, where everyone has clean, adequate housing, clean, adequate food, a proper education to the extent of their abilities and desires, and health care free at the point of delivery from cradle to grave, I don't care if capitalism exists on top of that so long as it is properly regulated. Now, we have examples in Europe of properly regulated capitalistic societies that have strong social safety nets that are far healthier, both financially and socially, than America. But then again, it's not hard to be healthier, both financially and socially, than America. We were a really, really low bar. And in Europe, no one is going bankrupt if they get sick. In America, there are people rationing their insulin because they can't afford it. There are people who die because they can't get access to vaccines or to antibiotic treatments or to cancer meds, or because they can't afford their HIV medications. We just let people die in America. because we are a failure. Because we are the best example I can think of how capitalism is the problem and not the solution to anything. But never forget that capitalism is artificial. It is not natural. It is not the state of the world. It is not a reflection of biology. It is not a reflection of the state of human beings. It is completely artificial. We created it. We can modify it. We can change it. We can toss it into the dustbin of history if we choose. There was a time when steam power was really important to us technologically. Now, not so much. I'm thinking it's time to do the same thing with capitalism. Capitalism got us pretty darn far. Well, time to change it radically, maybe even get rid of it. And we still have steam power in the real world. Not at many places, but there are certain places it's very applicable. Well, that's what we should be doing in capitalism. Find where it works, and get rid of it everywhere it doesn't. And if it's causing human suffering, into the dustbin of history. So please, remember, no matter who tells you otherwise, capitalism is not natural.